this is going to be probably the most volatile year we've seen in quite some time. Prices are moving at the limit many days, up the limit, down the limit. We're going to see a continuation of high corn prices and high soybean prices because biofuels are demanding a lot of the corn, and corn and soybeans are grown essentially on the same ground. So if you're using more corn for ethanol, that means there's less space to grow the soybeans. So both of them move up together, and they're going to be high throughout this year. We're going to go from 7 billion gallons of ethanol now to 13 billion by the end of this year. And that's just going to take a whole lot of corn. It's going to keep the prices high all year long. Right now, we are producing about 7 billion gallons a year. By the end of 2008, we will have the capacity to produce 13 billion gallons from corn. All this is corn. And by 2015, Congress established a renewable fuel standard of 15 billion gallons from corn. We will meet that, and that's probably about as far as we'll go from corn. The pressure on feed and food prices just gets too high if you go much beyond that. But Congress established a standard of 36 billion gallons of biofuels by 2022, and the rest of that comes from cellulose or sugarcane or biodiesel. I think this year we're going to use maybe a third of our corn crop for ethanol. Now that's up from 20% last year and 10% the year before, so it's a huge increase. But I don't ever see us getting to the point that we would import grain. Our exports are going to fall, or certainly are in the process of falling. The amount that's consumed by animals in this country will fall, and we have and will continue to have higher production than we've had historically. But I don't see us importing corn for ethanol. Food prices are going to go up, depending on who you look at, the numbers, 4% perhaps, which is quite high for food prices. We depend on half of our imported oil on the Middle East, Venezuela, and Nigeria. Nigeria is a problem because it's unstable. There are labor problems, there's civil unrest, and so sometimes the facilities get shut down and we can't just import the stuff. Venezuela is a problem because of the political tensions, and Hugo Chavez is who he is, and he's not a friend of the United States. So when we're dependent on half of the oil we import, and we import 2/3 of our oil, so a third of the oil we consume comes from these sources that aren't necessarily the most friendly or most reliable or most stable. One of the fascinating things about the biofuels development is the trade implications that it has. When you start producing a lot of biofuels from corn in the United States, that changes what's produced where. It involves land use changes all over the world. We have a model and a set of data at Purdue called GTAP, a Global Trade Analysis Project. So we can shock that model and tell it, produce 15 billion gallons of ethanol from corn, which is what Congress mandated. And then we can estimate what happens to corn production, soybean production, other cereals production all over the world. And there are changes everywhere because we continue to have demand to feed animals, to feed people. We continue to have need for pasture. We continue to have need for we want to maintain the forest resources, but things get shifted all over the place. So this biofuels thing is not limited. The impacts are not limited to the United States. They traverse the whole globe. And we're fortunate at Purdue to have the capacity to estimate these land use changes that do occur because of the biofuels policies that we've implemented here. Well, the Asian market, Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, has historically been quite good for agricultural products. We import a lot of electronics and automobiles and the like, but it's always been a good market for agricultural products. If North Korea were to open up, it would be a tremendous market for agricultural products to the extent they could afford to buy, because there is a significant food shortage in North Korea. So if it opens up, it'll be good for American agriculture. The commodity prices are up across the board, not just because of biofuels programs. They're up across the board because India and China have been growing so fast, and their demand for all of these raw materials has been growing so fast. And you add to that the biofuels in the United States and Europe, and you get tremendous pressure on commodity prices across the board.